Hey y'all, so today I'm going to try to, in real time, show you how to drive a bearing in and out of a hub. This just happens to be like a disc hub for a piece of farm equipment. I had a guy bring them to me. I've got two of them, but he didn't have a press, and he asked me if I did, and I said, yeah, I got a press. So I told him I would do it for him, but I'm actually going to just hammer them in and out so that y'all can see how it's done. If you don't have a press, if you don't have any special tools, that's what I'm going to be attempting, and I'm going to just do it in real time. I'm not going to stop the video. That way you'll know I'm not pulling any smoke and mirrors on you. Now, the best thing to do is go ahead and put your new bearing in the freezer. That's not really special equipment because pretty much everybody has a freezer or a refrigerator. Let them soak in there overnight if you can. I didn't have that luxury. I just got home from work and it was laying in front of the garage. So, and then also if you've got a torch, I recommend going ahead and heating this hub. The bearing goes in no matter, if it's a wheel hub on a car or a disc or whatever it may be. But these are, press in and out bearings. That's what they're made to do. Obviously some bearings are a little different, but just one sealed unit bearing like. But with that said, I have to drive this bearing out that way. The snap ring's already out. I've just got a pair of snap ring pliers for that, and he already had them out, so I'm not going to put them back in just to show how they come out because they're simple. But I'm going to go ahead and get my camera set up. Now, go ahead and get a decent sized hammer. I'm not sure what this one weighs. It probably says on here somewhere, but it's a pretty hefty hammer. It's an old S-wing hammer, but you want something that's actually going to put some pressure on this thing when you're driving on it. It's a waste of time using too small of a hammer sometimes. And I've got this supported on two 4x4s, and this one runs along the bottom side just on the inside of this lip here, and then this one runs along on the inside of that lip, and these bolts are kind of catching on the boards underneath. You can't support it straight underneath because your bearing wouldn't have anywhere to go, so we've got to support it that way. So you'll have to have some blocks of wood or something 2x4 stacked up. And for sure, when you're messing with bearings, wear safety glasses. You don't want to take shrapnel to the eye. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can drive this one out. Alright, it's starting to move. Make sure my blocks are staying where they need to be. Now at this point, I really need to raise this up some. I'm going to use a socket, and that gives me some extra length up out of this hub. I am using an impact socket. These are lifetime warranty. It's probably not ideal, but this is no special tools, so I'm trying to use stuff that people have laying around. bearing came out. No problems there. There's the old bearing. And you just want to kind of inspect the bore here and make sure everything looks good. And if I can find it, I like to use a little screwdriver or a small pick, just something to go around this groove, just to ensure that when you go to put your snap ring back in, it's going to be clean. And that one actually seems pretty good. I did hit this hub on the back side and dinged it a little, but it didn't, right here, dinged it a little, but it didn't hurt anything. That's really, a person should probably start with their socket from the get-go. So now we need to flip this over. You know, your bearing can only go in and out from one side almost always, and that's what the snap ring is for. It'll go in the screw once the bearing is back in. The new bearing can go in either way. It's the same one way or the other. And so I like to just spray a little bit of lube on it, just some kind of light oil. I'm using WD-40. And then when you're driving your new bearing in, you only want to drive on this outside race, because if you drive on the center, you're putting all that pressure through the balls in the bearing, and that's really hard on your new bearing. You can do it, but it's just really not good on them. You're going to shorten the life of your bearing most likely. You could possibly break something. Obviously that's how I drove it out, but we're not using that bearing anymore, so it doesn't matter. So I just need to get this back on here fairly solid. Now sometimes it takes a little work to get them started straight. Just need to work your way around and try to keep it going as straight as possible. Once it gets in so far, it'll pretty well go straight. Ideally, you probably should wear some gloves. My welding gloves are the only thing close, so I'm going to use them. At this point, you're going to have something pretty much to drive on this surface here. And what I have is an old bearing race that's the same size. And, sorry, it's coming off of my wooden block here. You just want to hold that dead straight with the other. If you get off center like this, you can damage the seal here. So you need to hold it straight as possible. And then if you've got something flat to lay on top to drive this straight down, that's also ideal. So let me see if I can come up with something real quick. So I've just got a piece of square tubing. That is going to jump around on me, but that's okay. can see, it's going down in there pretty good. I don't know if I can maybe do it. Yeah, it sure is easier if you can hit straight on it. You gotta use some force though. And once you get so far, the old bearing is going to start centering itself in the hub as well, and then you can, it's a lot easier to drive it the rest of the way basically. I'm not quite there yet, but it's getting close. Now I'm getting there. I'm just going to hold this piece of steel, this tubing now. Now this can get stuck like this, and you can just take your hammer, pop it back up out. And it might run across the shop floor on you like mine did, but I think my bearing is bottomed out. Usually it'll make a different sound, and I would show you, but this fits pretty snug in here, so I don't think I'm gonna drive it back in if I don't need to. I don't know, it's real close. You know, I've got to get down under this groove here. I might need to go just a touch more. Sounds bottomed out to me. There we go, that came out a little smoother that time. So after that, just gotta take the snap ring. I like to hold it with my fingers kinda so that it can't take off, because these will fly farther than you can ever imagine. And once it gets started in the bore, you know, it'll hold itself or pretty much go on its own. And I'll just show you how it kind of snaps out when everything is right. You see it kind of snap out and take hold there. And then sometimes I like to just peck it and make sure that it's seated, but that's your new bearing install right there. Good and smooth. It's ready to go. So I know this video is probably, you know, not important to a lot of people, but if you're doing this at home in your driveway, whether it be your lawnmower or ATV or whatever you got, that's just kind of the general, you know, process you're going to have to go through. I was lucky enough to have this bearing race that fits perfect. I always keep old bearing races. Well, I'll show you the top of my press here. Because when you're pressing stuff, it's really nice to have, you know, different size races, especially when you're going back with your new stuff. This one, he actually brought me 2 of these. The one, the bearing has totally come apart, and this race is all that was left in it. So I had to drive this race out on its own, and so I already had this race that's the same, you know, exact size. But usually you can get by, you know, you can do it with a punch or something like that and a hammer, but it sure is tough to do without puncturing a seal or hurting your bearing. I've done it. I've beat a lot of bearings in before I bought my press. If you're doing it much, the press is just, it's the way to go. But I just wanted to show this because, like I said, some people, you know, that aren't working on stuff every day, they're not going to have special tools. So this is something you can basically do with a hammer and a little bit of WD-40. And if you've got a torch and a refrigerator, you can heat your hub up real good with the torch, get it good and hot while the bearing is out. Well, actually, before you drive the bearing out, you can heat this up and get it good and warm, and the bearing will come out easier. And then before you put your new bearing in, you want to chill it in the freezer, you know, preferably for a couple hours anyway, and get it good and cold. And then heat this hub back up right before you drop your new bearing in. And it's amazing how much easier they'll drive in that way. But this was no special tools, not heating, not freezing anything. So hopefully that gives y'all some idea of what, you know, what's required if you're, you know, facing this job on something. I appreciate you watching. Like I said, this was all done in real time. I wanted it to be as straightforward as possible so people didn't think that, you know, I was doing something else off camera. And so anyway, I hope some people found this useful, and appreciate you watching.